Take yourself back to the 1960s, to what we now refer to as the Silver Age of comics was just contemporary literature. The Silver Age defined comics as we know them and largely defined pop culture thanks to Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, and many other creators. And we'll avoid any current or historical controversies for the sake of oversimplification. One thing that definitely came from Stan Lee was injecting his personality into the editorial side of Marvel Comics, including the letters page. Stan gave himself a voice, and in turn gave fans a voice there as well. For many years, we, as geeks, drifted through time and space. Seeking each other out in places beyond the letters section, we mailed each other crudely made magazines. I think I need a break. I need Kino in my collection. Where was this action figure when I was 10? Fanzines, back to fanzines. Comic-Con fever is affecting my brain function. I just finished my top 5 exclusives I actually own video, so watch that and then we'll talk more fanzines. Fanzines. In the 60s, fans came together via printed paper. Today, we get together at Comic-Con and frankly, it's not just the gathering of geeks, it's a gathering of all of pop culture, really. Because geek culture is now pop culture. Movies live or die, kind of, by the hype and reception at Comic-Con. Although that seems to be changing with this current Comic-Con, 2023 as I'm recording this, a lot of major studios are not gonna be there. We now have a place to physically gather and ask the world, how is our weirdo stuff now popular? How did that happen? When did my weird geek stuff become the stuff that everybody uses to make movies and make money? Like, every movie. I don't mind that part. Maybe not every movie, but like every other movie would be better. I'm sorry, I'm getting off track. This video would be much longer if I went down that path. In the 1970s, San Diego residents Shel Dorf, Ken Kruger, and Richard Alf held a one-day convention in March. It went well enough that in August they held a 3-day event. The bigger event included guest Ray Bradbury, who called me a genius, yes he really did, and Jack Kirby. I'm sure he would have also called me a genius had he had that opportunity. A whopping 300 people attended. Today, I think it's 75 billion. While I haven't found a direct line that connects these two things, I think there's a logical conclusion that can be made between fanzines connecting fans and us physically then beginning to gather at Comic-Con and other comic conventions at that time. It showed us there were others out there that liked what we liked, such as Fantastic Four by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, or Detective Comics featuring Man-Bat, and in my comic-loving prime, Zen Intergalactic Ninja. A few years ago, I found myself at a panel for fanzines. It was called The Golden Age of Fanzines. The Golden Age of Fanzines, which actually occurred, I believe, at the end of the Silver Age of Comics, just to make things slightly more confusing. The panel was held at Comic-Con in San Diego. Many conventions call themselves Comic-Con, but there is only one Comic-Con. Comic-Con in San Diego. There have even been lawsuits. And I'm sure there will be more, but this video is about the good stuff, so let's focus on the good stuff. Among the panelists was Roy Thomas, who famously went from fanzine circulator to all-time great comic book writer. You could argue he wrote Spider-Man stories more famous than those written by Stan Lee. At least one for sure. The panel was moderated by Mark Evanier.
I host a lot of panels here, mostly about comic books.
A former teacher of mine at USC. Now, I've run into Mark several times over the years, mostly at conventions. I'd remind him that I had him as an instructor in a comedy writing class. He always seemed to forget who I was.
Can't figure out why.
I'd point out that I was one of like 5 students in the class, and maybe less than 5.
But it's still about just a lot of creative, brilliant people getting together.
Followed by an awkward silence. He'd break the silence by introducing me to the person sitting next to him. Mark's career in comics began in 1967, working as an assistant for Jack Kirby. Mark was one of those fanzine circulating fans himself and was actually at Comic-Con in 1970 and I believe at every one since. I see myself as Mark's unwanted geek son. In class, I constantly ask him about writing comics, about Jack Kirby, and so on. I'm still not a very good comedy writer. I mean, if you watch these YouTube videos, you'll see that at best I should have got a C in that class, but he did in fact give me an A. I think he may have viewed me as a suck-up, but I truly care about that stuff. I still do.
We're doing less about comic book history, but there's plenty more history to cover, and there's plenty more to say about the books.
It was the first generation of geeks passing it on to the next. Now, I pass it on to my daughter. They'll probably hate it. We'll see you in San Diego at Comic-Con.
At Comic-Con.
See you at Comic-Con?
See you at Comic-Con.
See you at Comic-Con. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. What do you got?
I have Tinkerbell. I have Vet Barbie.
Are they coming to Comic-Con?
Yes.
Cool. Barbies will be at Comic-Con.